All right, welcome back. We have a new knife here, and this is another brand I've never handled before. This particular brand, MachineWise, has done quite a few knives in the balisong. Oops, let's make sure nothing sensitive is shown here. In the balisong space, but I do not do balisongs or butterfly knives, better known as, in the movies. This is the MachineWise Sonora, and I was able to nab one off of their recent drop. So very excited to check it out. This is their first time doing a folding knife that's not a balisong. They do some other EDC stuff. I saw they had done a pen. I don't know if that's an ongoing project or not, but they appear to do some very high-end work, like some of the more expensive $500, $700 type balisongs. So let's see what we think of the Sonora, their first folding knife. All right, and this is number 13, born on February 20th, Magnacut 64 HRC, impressive. They check each knife 3 times apparently. Fine step over pattern, QC checked, and there's some like really cool things that they're doing here with this knife. I'll throw some of this stuff over here. One of which is when they cut this, I don't even know what you call that, this inlay out, it leaves an excess piece, and they give you that excess piece as a sort of a challenge coin. They also throw in a high-end bit because that's what they want you to use with their knives, and some sort of honey sort of lubricant or something. So let's see what we think. First impressions, and I very rarely buy flipper only knives, but this one, very compelling looking. Very light, but nice size. It's like a full size, it feels like. Ooh, very smooth. Wow. That is the smoothest button lock that I have ever handled. And sorry if you're hearing my son in the other room. He has a cold right now and is coughing and shouting and doing all sorts of things that 4-year-olds do. Interesting, they kept a very thick blade stock thickness all the way to the end, which is how they're able to do this very interesting grind where they do like a, I don't want to call it like a compound, but almost like a little tanto on the end. And that's because they keep it, they're doing a grind, you know, very flat out to the end. Normally you'll see on a knife a lot of progressiveness. This is a bad example, but progressiveness towards the end. And this one does not have that. So let's get some of this stuff in the background out of here so that we get good focus out of the camera. Nice stonewash finish. What are they doing here on this finish? This is interesting. It's kind of like a polished edge here that kind of extends out the grind. Curious how good of a sharpening job they've done here. Let's see what we think. Get a nice generous piece of paper here. Very good. Little catch in there partway through, but yeah, pretty darn good, pretty darn good. Not insanely sharp, but definitely in the good enough category. Just want to see if that end piece, the way that they're sharpening it, I would imagine that's pretty hard to get paper cutting sharp over there. It's pretty close once you get it started, but the real story here I feel like is twofold. One, this integral handle, so I didn't even spend time showing you this yet, but integral with holes in it, which is very interesting. And interesting to see how that sits in there too. That integral is very like, there's almost like a built-in backspacer or something. Zoom in on that. Super interesting design on how they do this. Not heavily milled out on the inside, but a pretty flat scale that, you know, made in titanium doesn't really need it. You can see this one's serial number 13. And here's that like inlay that I was talking about. And I've seen they've done some anodized versions of these as well. Kind of a cool place for the logo as logos go. So you have like a basically logo-free look overall. and then you just have the logo on the back there. I kind of like that. It's a very compelling design. Let's see what we think of the pocket clip. It's a little on the strong side. I don't have good pants here for testing it out, so I won't pretend to test it out and tell you that I've made some sort of authoritative decision on it. Now, some button locks can be pretty fidgety in terms of like you can use them to like flip it out. This one's not quite so much, but it is possible, but it doesn't quite give you that feel. It's a very flush button lock. So it's fairly flush to the scale. It doesn't give you like a ton of feeling like you can really manipulate it. Let's see if we can see a little bit of how it works. Perfect detent. Yeah, very similar design to just pretty much like any other basic button lock. But let's see if we have good lockup. Forward back seems good, and 0 side to side blade play, so that's good. A lot of these button locks, and I don't know if this is on bearings or washers. It's like smooth as washers, but like sort of fast as bearings, which is very weird. It looks like it's on washers, right? See if we can maybe get a flashlight on the subject here. I've been enjoying this Sharpened flashlight because it can do this like kind of low level light here. I need to not look through the camera, I think. It's hard to say. It could be bearings where the balls are hidden. Sorry, no, that's off screen. Or I think it's washers though. And if it's washers, it's just very smooth. Like, you know, I had the Les George on this channel. Not even in the same ballpark. This is so much better than what I felt with the Les George. So you can, it's better for like the light switch, I feel like, but you can also kind of push button it. It doesn't want to push button a lot because I think the flipper tab's a little higher than the pivot, so it doesn't really want to be push buttoned. Kind of a light detent, I'd say. Oh, look, now it's in there. It's pretty snug. It's super interesting. It's a very interesting design. I think when I was saying light detent, I was on the button. No, it's a pretty good detent. Very interesting knife. I'm not a big flipper only guy. If you watch the channel, you'll know that. So it takes a fairly compelling knife for me to really consider it, to even, you know, spend, in this case, the table on this first drop was $650. For me to spend $650 on a flipper only knife, it has to be a very compelling design. I'd say this is in that range. Now, I'm sorry, I know I haven't gotten to all the details that you're probably looking for. Let's weigh it in. And we'll do some measurements. So 3.5 ounces. Do love that 64 rating on the Magnacut. That's pretty cool. And it looks like it really well utilizes the blade. I'm gonna have to play around with the ergos a little bit and see what I think, but it's like about a 3.375 blade length with, looks like you get most of the cutting edge out of it. Yeah, basically the same amount, like 3.3 inches on the cutting edge, 3.3 inches or so on the blade. Overall length, we're looking at 7.75 like on the nose. So a pretty compelling size, I think, for most people. Some people don't want to go over 7 inches. Some people don't want to go over 8 inches. It's all going to be sort of opinion. A little sharp on the inside of the scale here. Like because he kind of gives this relief, then you end up with a kind of narrow part hitting your hand here. So it's not bad. Like it's not super hot spotty, but if you really grip it, I'd say you're going to notice it. A little bit of a choke up point there too. This feels like a very thoughtfully done. You know, the one thing I would have asked would be if they could have had these flush, this little choil here flush with the scale, so you have this nice, you know, spot for your finger to pop into. That would have been really nice if they had just taken a little more material off that to have that be flush. But overall, it's a nice knife. I do believe you'll see one of these on the Metal Complex channel soon, if not already. He's got one in hand. I think he got number 3. I think they sent it to him. Yeah, so these are made in USA, if you're not familiar. MachineWise is based out of Arizona, Phoenix area. And I don't know a lot about the team over there, but I did just watch the unboxing and watch them kind of go, or not the unboxing, but the sort of introduction video on this, and watch the designer go through this and talk about it and stuff. And I really liked the details on the card here. I like the additional info that you get. You know, it's not always done, so that's kind of cool how they're doing that. I'd like to see if I don't know if this challenge coin comes out or if it's just embedded in here, but it's kind of interesting. You can see, where is it? I guess this is somehow where this comes out of, right? I'm not sure exactly what they do there. Maybe it's thicker originally or something, who knows? But I don't know if this actually comes out of here, if it's kind of part of the packaging or what. Doesn't feel completely stuck in there, so maybe I'll try and get it out. There we go. Cool. So there's the coin that it comes with. It's not super well finished, so if you're looking for something to carry, I wouldn't say this is intended for that. This was your bolster. So yeah, kind of cool there. So they must mill it down, cut it off, and then create this coin is kind of what I'm thinking happens there. So that's kind of neat. Like, I like them throwing this in, and the fact that it's a T15, of course. By the way, notice, I kind of missed the comment, but noticed it right away when I looked at the pictures online. Only one visible screw, right? Like, these two kind of match each other really well, which is neat. Let's get a zoom in on that. That's like really close to matching the pivot and the button, which I think looks really cool. I don't know if I've really noticed other makers doing that match. And then you got a T15 on this side, which we all prefer, you know, a T8 to T15, but T15 is very generous. And then there's no other visible hardware, so I guess on the back. So you take that off, and I mean, it's a, right, it's an integral, so there's really not a lot needed there. It's pretty cool. It's interesting. I'd say like the closest thing I'd liken it to would be a Grimsmo. That would be, you know, the closest thing. I am getting a little bit of button stick now. So worth noting. It's not a terrible amount, but it's there. Pretty common for button locks. Man, that is just impressive how so if you get off the button, then you're gonna get kind of a wiggle shut action. If you stay on the button, then it stays nice and loose, unlike some other button locks that I've handled. So yeah, overall, nice knife. I gotta think about where it fits in the collection for me, of course, but very excited to be able to share this with you. And yeah, neat to see a tie integral made in the US for $650. I mean, that's, I don't think there's anything like that. So that makes this knife very unique. I think it's worth one last zoom on that bolster. That's pretty nice. Yeah, there's not a lot on here that doesn't seem thoughtfully put together, and I appreciate that. Interesting milling here in terms of how that complements and kind of zigzags against this side and goes with that side. Some interesting little design choices they made, for sure. So I think that's all for now. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.